Hello, dear co-creative Destiny Weavers. I've just written my weekly Sunday rune and soul letter, which are always sent out to everybody who subscribes to my soul letter through my website www.ericaamazingme. And there I started to write Wyrding wisdom, Wyrding in Norse, meaning weaving from the ever becoming present. The weird is also the void from where all possibilities arise, like also the name of my book, The Wyrding Way, the mysterious art of weaving your own destiny. It's like the three Norns who sit at the roots of the world tree Yggdrasil, you can see here. And it's about rooting ourselves at our own essence and start to weave. And I've got a whole playlist on my YouTube channel where I read out fairy tales and stories, which have so far always been from these fantastic books. Like here from Körner Verlag. They were very popular in the 70s and 80s here in Germany. And they're very deep, wise stories, which I just love, who invite us to dive also very deep. And that's why I also post the weekly podcast by the mythologist Michael Meade, who's also reading out wise stories to invite us to go deep and to listen to our soul's imaginary language, which also express itself through metaphors and all the images which arise through that. And there's a lot of wisdom. It's like diving really deep to our own well and our own cave of wisdom. And I just read out a fairy tale. It's in German, which is called Lebenswerk. And in summary, in English, it's about a man who is doing a painting. All his life, he's painting this really beautiful, beautiful painting, which is called in German Lebenswerk. It's a life's painting. It took him all his life until a big storm arrives, and his whole painting, his whole life's achievement is just gone. And I think it resembles current times with the pandemic, where so much is disappearing from our previous habits and patterns and ways of life. And it's very important how we respond in those times. And this man, he responds in a way like he accepts that it's a natural cycle of destruction, and he still stands up and smiles and picks up his brush again and starts to paint another painting, not knowing what is going to happen to that. And I think this response offers a lot of guidance, how we can respond in those uncertain times. And there's another story from this great mythologist who inspires me a lot, and I share his podcasts every week on Saturday, Michael Meade. It's from his book, Why the World Doesn't End. And it's called Weaving and Unraveling in Black Dog Times. And I think it has got a very similar essence, like the story which I just summarized. This story is from the White Mountain Apache, adapted from his book, Why the World Doesn't End. The old people of the tribes would tell of a special cave where knowledge of the wonders and workings of the world could be found. Even now, some of the native people say that the cave of knowledge exists and might be discovered again. They say it is tucked away in the side of a mountain. Not too far to go, they say, yet no one seems to find it anymore. Despite all the highways and byways, all the thoroughfares and back roads that cross-cut the face of the earth, despite all the maps that detail and try to define each area, no one seems to find that old cave. That's too bad, they say, because inside the cave can be found genuine knowledge about how to act when the dark times come around again and the balance of the world tips away from order and slips towards chaos. Inside the cave there lives an old woman who remains unaffected by the rush of time, at the confusion and strife of daily life. She attends to other things. She has a longer sense of time and a deep capacity for vision. She spends most of her time weaving in the cave where light and shadows play. She wants to fashion the most beautiful garment in the whole world. She has been at this weaving project for a long time and has reached the point of making a fringe for the edge of her exquisitely designed cloak. She wants that fringe to be special, wants it to be meaningful as well as elegant. So she weaves it with porcupine quills. She likes the idea of using something that could poke you as an element of beauty. She likes turning things around and seeing life from odd angles. In order to use the porcupine quills, she must flatten each one with her teeth. After years of biting hard on the quills, her teeth have become worn down to nubs that barely rise above her gums. Still, the old woman keeps biting down and she keeps weaving on. The only time she interrupts her weaving work is when she goes to stir the soup that simmers in a great cauldron at the back of the cave. The old cauldron hangs over a fire that began a long time ago. The old woman cannot recall anything older than that fire. It just might be the oldest thing there is in this world. Occasionally, she does recall that she must stir the soup that simmers over those flames. For that simmering stew contains all the seeds and roots that become the grains and plants and herbs that sprout up all over the surface of the earth. If the old woman fails to stir the ancient stew once in a while, the fire will scorch the ingredients, and there is no telling what troubles might result from that. So the old woman divides her efforts between weaving the exquisite cloak and stirring the elemental soup. In a sense, she is responsible for weaving things together, as well as for stirring everything up. She senses when the time has come to let the weaving go and stir things up again. Then she leaves the weaving on the floor of the cave and turns to the tasks of stirring the soup. Because she's old and tired from her labors and because of the relentless passage of time, she moves slowly and it takes a while for her to amble over to the cauldron. As the old woman shuffles across the floor and makes her way to the back of the ancient cave, a black dog watches her every move. The dog was there all along. Seemingly asleep, it awakens as soon as the old weaver turns her attention from one task to the other. As she begins stirring the soup in order to sustain the seeds, the black dog moves to where the weaving lies on the floor of the cave. The dog picks up a loose thread with its teeth and begins pulling on it. As the black dog pulls on the loose thread, the beautiful garment begins to unravel. Since each thread has been woven to another, pulling upon one begins to undo them all. As the great stew is being stirred up, the elegant garment comes apart and becomes a chaotic mess on the floor. When the old woman returns to take up her handiwork again, she finds nothing but cows, where there had been a garment of great elegance and beauty. The cloak she has woven with great care has been pulled apart, the fringe all undone. The effort of creation has been turned to naught. The old woman sits and looks silently upon the remnants of her once beautiful design. She ignores the presence of the black dog as she stares intently at the tangle of undone threads and distorted patterns. After a while, she bends down, picks up a loose thread, and begins to weave the whole thing again. As she pulls thread after thread from the chaotic mess, she begins again to imagine the most beautiful garment in the whole world. As she weaves, new visions and elegant designs appear before her, and her old hands begin to knowingly give them vibrant shape. Soon she has forgotten the cloak she was weaving before, as she concentrates on capturing the new design and weaving it into the most beautiful garment ever seen in the world. I think this is such a beautiful, wise story. Wyrding wisdom, weaving wisdom, weaving of the new story, of the new tapestry of life. Like you can see in this Facebook group, the title page is also this beautiful weaving of the world, with each human being holding their own piece of thread. And I think it's so encouraging how we respond in those new times. Are we afraid, or do we create from our highest possible selves, which my whole book is about, the Wyrding Way. It's about how, like the nuance, we can get to the roots of picking up our own unique thread. And once we consciously hold the piece of thread, then we can start like to weave this new tapestry. Yeah. To sum this up, that's why I write in my book, The Wyrding Way. I will pass on my experience of reconnection with my own roots and wings, my own life's thread to others. My own reconnection with unique destiny thread began about 2 years ago, and the main transformation happened through the embodied metaphor of growing as a seed in the heart space, all closed off with thick walls, then growing into flowers around my heart space, growing further into a tree with roots and wings as strong and tall as the world tree Yggdrasil. When the metaphor further transformed into the three nuance who sit by the world tree Yggdrasil and weave the destiny of all physical matter. And where Dante, the known of the present, started to weave through me, and me being this tall and strong tree. So we all have a sacred destiny thread, our unique soul purpose we came here to fulfill and to fully self-actualize. But we often get distracted, forget, or simply lose touch with this sacred thread inside. Like those words by Michael Meade. To pick up the invisible thread of our own story and follow where it leads. So this book will support you in picking up of your own unique invisible thread so that you can come back to wholeness of your own essence that you already are. From this wholeness, you can become and co-create your own destiny from the inside out in the most conscious way. So this weaving all starts with you picking up your own unique piece of thread, which is also your soul purpose, what you came here for. And then we can consciously start to create our own life's painting, our own story, our own tapestry of life. And from this highest possible self-actualized self, that's how we create and weave the new tapestry of life. Yeah. And to continue on this well of wisdom from the weird, the norns and the runes, I will also connect with my dear rune sister, Susan Epstein, today, later on between 9 till 10 o'clock of the German time. If you've got any questions, please write them underneath in the comments and I will answer them. Yeah, and I look forward to share more of the Wyrding Way and the Wyrding wisdom, which is all about weaving of this new tapestry of life. Yeah, have a wonderful Sunday. I hope to see you later on the call with Susan Epstein and otherwise on more Wyrding wisdom that I will share. Blagadaru. Many blessings. Have a wonderful Sunday.